Cool. All righty. We are live, so let's get started here. I will start sharing my screen and we will get going. Okay. Awesome. Let's get rolling here. Slides. Sweet. Cool. All righty, everybody. Welcome to the UWSP Student Chapter Wildlife Society's general member meeting. Got a great one for you as always, so thank you so much for coming. Last meeting before spring break, guys, last week. Alrighty, so there are some projects that are doing some really cool hands-on volunteer work. So if you guys want to get out on that kind of stuff, you will have to pay dues. We do have to pay for equipment, keep these projects running, so that's what that goes to. And if you want to pay those dues in an online format, you can use our @uwsp.tbws PayPal account. Otherwise, you can drop off cash at my office hours for Monday from 11 to noon. If you're using PayPal, make sure you use friends and family so that you don't get that charge and we don't get that charge either.
So we have a couple other things along with dues, so everybody can go out on projects. So we have just a general membership form. I've sent it out at past meetings. I'll send it out in the chat again in a little bit. So this is just a general membership form. Even if you're not going out on projects, we'd love it if you fill it out. This is for the whole year, so if you filled it out last semester, you don't have to again. But then there's dues, like Nate just said, and then hold harmless forms, which I sent out at the beginning of the semester. If you need that form, shoot me an email and I can send you the form. You can fill it out digitally with Adobe Reader or whatever your method of choice is, or you can print it and sign it and scan it and send it back, whichever works for you. And then if you're not getting emails from us, which have all sorts of fun things like job announcements and volunteer opportunities and the Zoom link to the meeting every week, all that kind of stuff, easy way to join that list is to join us on Spin. So just find our organization on Spin, click join, and you'll be added to our email list.
Woo, thank you, Melinda. Lizzie.
All right, our conservation topic this week is about killer kitties and how we as pet owners can kind of satiate that bloodthirsty tendency they have. So I'm sure most of you are aware at this point that cats kill a lot of things. They kill a lot of birds and mammals and a lot of other stuff too. And obviously the best solution for this is just keeping them indoors, not letting them outside unsupervised where they could just, wander off and go, take down that bird. But I didn't realize this, but actually the UK is a lot like further behind in that than America is. Because America, we're kind of spreading that message more of hey, keep your cats indoors. Whereas in the UK, that's just not a thing yet. And it's so ingrained within kind of their society that oh, cats, that you can just let them outside, let them do whatever. So changing that cold turkey is a lot more difficult. And even in America, there's still plenty of people who just, will not keep their cats inside. So the study was done to see what we can do to kind of prevent them from killing so many animals. And there actually were some interesting solutions to this. I don't know if you can hear my bird in the background, but she's being really loud. But they tried a couple different treatments. They tried feeding cats a high meat protein diet. They tried playing with their cats with using feather and mouse toys for 10 to 15 minutes each day, puzzle feeders, and then putting either brightly colored collars on the cats or using bell collars. And the results were actually I don't know, I thought they were really fascinating. So bell collars don't work at all, apparently. Don't help birds, mammals, nothing. The prey isn't really alerted to the cat's presence. Whereas the colored collars, those were really effective for alerting birds to cat's presence. And it makes sense because birds, use so many bright colors in their plumage. So it reduced the bird kills that cats brought in by 42%. So that's quite a bit actually. And feeding cats a high protein meat diet was the best for kind of both groups, both birds and mammals. it reduced kills by 36%. And then using feather and mouse toys reduced kills by 25%. They found that puzzle feeders actually made cats kill more things. So that's a no-go. Don't use puzzle feeders if you're letting your cat outside. But the moral of the story is obviously the best solution is always to just keep your cat indoors. Then you know, like, they're not getting into anything outside. They're not going and killing the birds and mammals. But then if you absolutely like don't want to or cannot keep your cat inside, or if you encounter someone who doesn't want to, you can like give them these options to, you know, is to at least help reduce wildlife kills. Obviously they're still killing some things, but reducing that is better than, you know, them killing more animals. So with that, we can move on to our quiz bowl. All right. So which of these animals do cats prey upon? Birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, insects, all of the above, or no, cats don't kill anything. And then the second question is, in the US alone, about how many birds are killed annually? And this statistic was taken from the American Bird Conservancy. So one bird, 1.5 billion birds, 2.4 billion, 7.8 billion, 11.5 billion, or 3 trillion.
All righty. Answers rolling in. We'll give you guys 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Ending it. There is the results.
All right, you guys nailed the first question. I'm glad that nobody picked none. Yes, cats kill all of these things. Reptiles and amphibians are talked about less than mammals and birds. But as I was kind of doing some digging, like in Africa, cats, like the studies they've done have shown that cats kill actually more reptiles than they kill like birds. So it really depends like which part of the world we're talking about. Because here in America, I feel like I usually hear, oh, they kill so many birds. But you know, in other parts of the world, they kill different types of animals more than others. And then for the second question, you guys nailed that one too. It's estimated about 2.4 billion annually. And a lot of the estimates are like pretty broad. So I had to pick like one study and go with that. That's why I specified American Bird Conservancy. But even still, we just know they're killing a massive amount of birds. Like that's a lot. So
Awesome.
onto our favorite part, the mystery species. All right, you guys try and type into the chat what you guys think this animal is as fast as you can. Oh, Grant got it. One answer, but good job, Grant. Yeah, it is the fishing cat. All right, so the fishing cat is native to Southeast Asia, and they're listed as vulnerable through ICANN. They love water and they live in wetlands, which is kind of the opposite you think of cats. This photo I picked with the one shaking off the water, I just thought it was funny. But little is actually known about them in the wild. Most of the knowledge we have about them is through like what we've observed with captive fishing cats. So even trying to find like where they're native to, a lot of the websites said, you know, they're found in Southeast Asia, but we don't actually know like where their whole range is. There's not that much we know about them. But as the name suggests, they eat a lot of fish, but they also do eat crabs, crayfish, and frogs. And their front feet are partially webbed. So they'll fish by like kind of dabbling their feet in the water, or sometimes they will just full on plunge their head in and like try and grab them. But the reason why, you know, they can eat so many like aquatic things is because they have really, really dense fur that's close to their skin. And this helps to keep that water out. And then they have guard hairs. And those are the longer ones that give them their patterning. So yeah, hopefully you guys learned something new about cats that like water.
Awesome. Thank you, Lizzie.
All right, and the last thing for me, if we're still selling buttons, it's still $1 each or 3 for $3. You can come to Nate's office hour from 11 to noon on Mondays in TNR 359A. So we have these beautiful Hinkstrom buttons pictured, and we also do still have some Sartini and Dubé buttons available. So that is all.
Yeah, and if you guys are off campus or not able to come into my office, sir, send one of us an email and we'll be happy to figure something out for you. Cool. Thank you, Lizzie. Nathan.
All right, guys, it's that time. Mystery Wildlife Member of the Week. Last week, Sophia won. And I just gotta say, Sophia's done some cool stuff. I'm gonna mention that those two pieces of art there, what looks like a badger and a Sora, unless I'm just totally misidentifying that bird, drawn by her. And I think there's something pretty cool. Sophia, I think you're a double major, right? What's your other major?
I am. So I'm a major in wildlife and art.
Art.
So yeah, my double major is 2D art.
Wow. You know what? I think that'd be the coolest thing to double major in because you're going to have so much inspiration as we can see right here. But other than that, you find a lot of other interests like Minecraft. And I want to say something, guys. I saw on the internet that like all those Minecraft music videos. I don't know if you watched them when you were kids too. They're going to be like 10 years old, and that's a lot for me, and I can't handle it. But yeah, I'm going to throw Sophia's Instagram out there. I followed her. I think everyone else should follow her. It's pretty cool if you like art and nature, which seems to be like, who doesn't like art and nature? But yeah, member of the week. Got to get that mystery wildlife animal if you want to get spotlight.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. Go, Sophia. Amazing art. Amazing art. Melina.
Hi, everyone. So tomorrow and every Wednesday, Senior Bible Study happens on Zoom from 7 to 8 p.m. And it's just a group of natural resource majors gathering together to study the Bible. It's a great way to meet other Christians who are also CNR majors. And the Zoom link is there on the side. And if you have any questions, you can email me or Megan, who's the other leader.
Awesome. Thank you, Melina. Amanda.
Hello, everyone. So this is something that's pretty new for the chapter. Melinda, the membership coordinator, and I brought this to the officer board just a few weeks ago. And the officer board has moved through with this, so we are presenting it to general members today. But we thought as an officer board that it's time for our student chapter to have a larger focus on diversity and inclusivity. It's really important in today's world and in our student chapter. We want to make our members feel more welcome and accepted and help everyone's voices be heard in the chapter. So we formed a new working group or like committee. It's called TIDE, Student Working Group. It stands for TWS, Inclusivity, Diversity, and Equity Student Working Group. So really excited about this new group. We have a lot of ideas for what it could look like in the future, what the committee could do, what the working group could do if we want it to be like an officer position or anything to focus on that. So right now, though, we are looking for input from you guys, from all of the general members, as well as from faculty. So I'm going to turn it over to Melinda, and she can let you know how to get more involved if you're interested.
Yeah, so this is going to be something that we're doing for the members. So we want members really involved in our creation of this position or committee or whatever it's going to end up being in the future. So we really want membership and faculty and just everybody to be involved in this. We can get as many voices involved because we want diversity. That's kind of the whole point. So we're going to have a Zoom meeting after spring break, probably the second week back. We haven't decided yet, so don't put that on your calendar quite yet. So this will be after a TWS meeting. So just right after the meeting's done, jump into a different Zoom meeting, and we'll be talking a little bit more about what our ideas are, and we'll have some time for questions, that kind of thing. We haven't decided on a date quite yet, but we will be sending out some emails and stuff with more information as we come up with that. But you can email Amanda or I. Our emails are on the screen if you have any specific questions. But we'll have a meeting after break for real formal stuff.
Woo, thank you guys. Yeah, be sure to get involved with this, guys. Super, super cool opportunity. All right.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet because you've been hearing me listen to it a lot. But we've extended sponsorship applications for the Wildlife Damage Management Conference. Registration is currently open, and this virtual conference will take place from April 19th to April 22nd. You get to learn a lot about different human-wildlife conflicts, especially in Wisconsin with sandhill cranes, Canada goose, white-tailed deer. So a lot of cool things. And then there's also some network opportunities, so I highly recommend that. And everyone is encouraged to apply. So I did extend this, so we didn't receive many sponsorship applications. So this is me telling you guys to apply.
Awesome. Thank you, Mackenzie. Yeah, just to reiterate that, you have a very, very good chance of getting the application approved. So guys, do not be afraid to apply. This is a really cool opportunity. Awesome. Danny.
All right, hi guys. If you were here last semester during the Student Spotlight series, I talked about my position through NEON over the summer, and we are hiring 2 technicians for this upcoming summer. And you'll be working with Dr. Riddle and I. It's a research opportunity, and we do passive point count breeding bird surveys in north central and then north central Wisconsin, and then up by the UP. We have 3 different sites, and if you are into birds, or if you just want to get some research in and want to get field work experience, this is a great opportunity. Dr. Riddle would love to have your information, so send in a resume, a summary of your bird knowledge, and then what dates you're available in the summer. It's usually at the beginning of the summer during the breeding season. And if you have any questions, you could contact me from a student's perspective, or you could contact Dr. Riddle about the position as well. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Danny. Super cool opportunity, guys. Super cool. Shelby.
Hey everyone, if you have any cool wildlife photos you've taken recently or in the past, you can send them in to be featured for this week's Fauna Friday. And then you can send those in by either DMing our Instagram page or by emailing me. And then you should follow our student chapter on social media. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and even add us on Snapchat with the code on the slide. And then if you ever miss a meeting, our meetings are recorded, and you can find those recordings on our YouTube channel and our website.
Sweet. Thank you, Shelby. All righty, guys. So that does it for announcements. Just a quick announcement for next 2 weeks from now. So we have spring break next week. We're not going to have a meeting, obviously. I want you guys to enjoy that. But when we come back, that first Tuesday back, we're going to be doing a little bit of a meet the officers and learn about their positions, because most of you guys, or some of you guys, are going to be running for these positions. And we really want you guys to know what we're all about, what we're up to. So we're going to give you a little bit of overview on ourselves and our positions. And then after that meeting, there's going to be an email sent out about this with more depth and detail, but we're going to be doing some mentorship. So we have 13 past TWS alums who are professionals in the field, biologists, researchers, all sorts of different backgrounds coming back. And we are going to be able to put you guys in one-on-one rooms with these people to talk about job interviews. They can review your resume. That time is basically however you guys want to use it. So this is going to be a super cool opportunity. And like I said, there's going to be a more detailed description of the event coming in a later email. So keep an eye out for that. But without further ado, today we have Shannon McNamara from Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and she is a wolf biologist and past TWS alum and a past Fisher co-leader. So, Shannon, welcome back. The rest of the time is yours. I will stop sharing my screen and I will make you the co-host here. And you are good to go.
Thank you. All right. So I just literally threw together some photos and stuff so that listening to me talk wasn't totally boring. But yeah, like Nate said, I am a former pointer. Yeah, and I guess maybe I'll put my PowerPoint up here so that I don't completely lose track of where I am. You guys will have to forgive me. Now is extremely busy, but I wanted to take the time to come in and talk to you guys because, well, one, I was really excited, and I think it'll be fun to chat with you guys and hopefully be able to give you guys some useful advice from where you're at to getting to where I'm at. So, well, let's see here. Okay. All right. I think I might have to, yeah. Okay. So my wildlife journey as it is. So I grew up in northern Minnesota. If you guys are familiar with the Bemidji area at all, I guess I'll take my blue light glasses off so you guys don't see glare. That's where I grew up. I went to high school in a small town right on Highway 2. It's called Bagley, Minnesota. If you guys have ever driven through Minnesota on your way to North Dakota, you've probably driven right through it. There's one stoplight there. My dad is basically kind of the reason that I'm here today. He, from ever since I could walk, was teaching me what different kinds of trees were, what all the animals I was seeing were, and absolutely everything else. And so he really kind of instilled that love of nature very early on for me. From high school, when I graduated, I went to a small college first, coming from a graduating class of 81, which doesn't sound that small, but the class after us was only 25. That gives you any sort of an idea. So it was a pretty small school. I did not think that I would set myself up to succeed if I went to a large university right away. And I'm really happy that I did this the way that I did. So Itasca Community College is a relatively small college in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. They do not, or at least did not at the time, have a wildlife program. I don't know if that has changed in recent years. So I went and acquired an associate's in forestry, which I've always thought has given me a little extra something when it comes to applying to jobs, just because, as wildlife folks, we need to know how foresters want to manage the forests and why they do the certain practices that they do, and be able to understand that so that we can work with them as professionals once we get to that area. At ICC, I was actually the vice president of the Natural Resources Club there. My first internship was actually aquatic invasive species intern. So you'll notice as I'm going through this, I have a lot of kind of all over really weird experience. And this was my first internship that I had. I absolutely loved it. I got to be on the boat every single day, drive around on the lake, and basically that was the extent of my job. Is I would throw a lake rake and pull it up and have to identify every single piece of vegetation that was on that lake rake, which took me to a lot of really cool places in Minnesota. And I got to learn a lot of really neat things about aquatic plants, which unfortunately I do not remember most of those things because that was in 2010. That's been a while. So moving from there, I transferred to Stevens Point. I knew that I was going to have to be here a little bit longer, considering the fact that I went for a forestry degree, but I had absolutely fallen in love with Grand Rapids when I went to visit that campus, so I decided that it was worth it. At this point in time in my life, I had actually been told that, like, if you don't go to Stevens Point, no one's going to pay attention to your resume. So that was actually kind of like the big factor that got me down there, which, I mean, it's gotten me a lot of places. So it's a great school, guys. You made a great choice with where you're at. I was the Fisher project leader for a while, and then I pulled in the other folks in that photo with me there are Molly O'Grady and Drake Hardman, who are both also wildlife professionals at this point in time. Drake is at the University of Delaware, working on his master's, and he's working with wild turkey. And Molly has been in Hawaii working with all kinds of crazy things and projects for the past 5 years. And she's working on getting over into Ireland right now. So yeah, we've all got pretty crazy experiences and crazy backgrounds. And that Fisher project is what really brought us together. That's my little Stevens Point family there. Yep, yeah. All right, Fishers, yeah. And you'll see, this is kind of like a heads up for things coming in the future here. The project that we specifically did for our Fisher research was developing a habitat suitability model for Fisher in central Wisconsin. Okay, we presented that at the Student Research Symposium and were actually awarded with highest honors, which was really exciting because it was the first time any of us had presented at that symposium besides. So cool things, cool things. The summer of 2012, I was a fisheries intern back home in Bemidji. So like I said, lots of diverse experience kind of all over the board. But what I really like about my journey is the fact that I do have that much experience. Not a lot of people have that much diversity in their work background. And I think it just, you don't necessarily need to focus on one specific thing to get you to where you want to go. Especially with internships, just have fun with it and apply for stuff that sounds cool. You know, you'll get to where you want to go eventually. Speaking of that, summer of 2013, this was one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. Wrangler naturalist. That was actually my job title, which at that point I thought was going to be the coolest job title that was going to ever be on my resume. And I ended up being wrong, which is okay. But this was a really great job. I was out in Montana, out in the mountains. So basically, you know, I was doing all of the naturalist things where I was taking people on guided tours through the mountains. And educating them about everything that they saw around them. You know, that was my job, was to know everything from what's that flower over there to what's that tree and what's that bird. So the diverse background was starting to come in handy with this job. The following summer, I got another Wrangler job. Oh, that other one that was in Montana, I forgot to mention, that was actually working for the Nature Conservancy. So I found that on the Nature Conservancy job website, which is how I got there. This particular position, this was in Idaho, which was basically a straight line across the Rocky Mountains from where I had worked the summer previously, which I just thought that was kind of neat. And even though this particular position wasn't actually a naturalist job, that was very much who I ended up becoming at that ranch. Because none of my other coworkers knew that stuff, and people, when you're taking people who are on vacation on trail rides, they want to know those kinds of things. So I pretty much just ended up filling that role as well. So this job got to stay on my resume because I was basically a naturalist all over again. After that, I decided that I needed to go home and focus on my career. So in like right before 2015 started, I moved home from Idaho and started looking into grad school. Now, little story here. When I was going to school at Stevens Point, I was bound and determined that I was not going to go back. I was just going to be like, I'm done. We're going to do seasonal jobs. We're going to work our way up. That's not what happened. Not that I couldn't get those jobs. I was having just fine luck getting all kinds of those seasonal positions. But the more I started looking at things and the more I started finding jobs that were full-time year-round jobs that I wanted, pretty much all of them require a master's degree. So I moved home. I got this job working as a full-blown educational naturalist for Itasca State Park, where, man, I think I created like pushing 40 unique individual lesson plans throughout that entire summer. And this was the summer, like my my supervisors really pushed me to do kids programs because I didn't like kids. And I was like scared of kids. I really don't want to. But by the end of the summer, I had completely changed my mind because I'm kind of like a huge arts and crafty person. And with the kids programs, they usually wanted to have some sort of an arts and craft project for the kids to do. And so I ended up having, I think like 12 of those programs I made ended up being kids projects, because the kids that showed up at these parks were just as nerdy as I was. And that was really exciting for me. And there's something that's extremely fulfilling about being able to work with children who actually care about nature and are interested in things that you're interested in. And you get to help, you don't really think of it at the time, but you end up being one of those memories that they keep forever and puts them on the path to where they end up. Like when I was, oh man, probably like around 6th grade, our school had a STEM outreach for young women. And I remember, the only thing I remember about that is going to a program that was about raptors. And I remember these super cool ladies that were holding, like, I think they had a red-tailed hawk and a great horned owl. And that's all I remember. I was just fascinated. That's so cool. I want to do stuff like that someday. And I actually got to help with a project like that while I was working at Itasca. I just didn't put the picture of me and the owl in there. But that's my dog, so he won. So then, shortly after I had moved home, I walked back into the Grand Rapids, Minnesota DNR office, which is, Grand Rapids holds a very special place in my heart. You know, that's my first 2 years of college were spent in that town. A lot of my work experience actually comes out of that particular office, especially after I did my master's degree. But from 2014, when I moved home from Idaho, until 2017, when I started my graduate degree, I volunteered at this office out of my own pocket, guys. So it took me, it was not easy to get to where I'm at right now. And we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. But when I first walked in, I actually started volunteering for the Fisher Martin Project again, because that's what I wanted to work with, was mustelids of any kind, really. But I am very interested in Fisher. I would also absolutely love to work with Wolverine someday. That's like top 5. And otters. Who doesn't love otters? I mean, really, you know. But yeah, so when I first walked into that office, and this is more for you ladies out there, no offense to the guys, but when I first walked into that office, you know, a lot of times you walk into those offices and it's all older white men who work there. So I'm trying to talk to these guys and they're having their like little coffee break, not paying attention to me whatsoever. And so I said something about, I know that you guys have a Fisher project here. Can you point me in the direction of who's in charge of that? So then they brought me over to this office in the back corner of the building. And the person who ended up being my mentor was sitting there working on his computer. And he was actually doing LiDAR work, which I'm a huge LiDAR nerd, but he was sitting there working on his computer and I'm just jibber jabbering talking to him and he's not even looking at me. But eventually I said something about that habitat suitability model that I had created for my Fisher project at Stevens Point. And he literally turned around in his chair, pulled his glasses down, and it was like all of a sudden I was just there, you know? So that's a huge suggestion of mine, is to go in and actually volunteer with someone and like make them know that you're serious about being there, you know? Because the more I hung around, the more stuff he had me help me with. Like I started helping gluing skulls back together was like the first thing I was doing, which is super fun. Don't get me wrong. I love doing that stuff. But yeah, I was gluing skulls back together. So like shuffling through a huge box of teeth, picking out the right ones and gluing them in place. And then I was doing necropsies for both Fisher and Martin. They also have a really big bobcat project that's based out of that office. So they get huge stacks of bobcat carcasses. So I did help with those as well. So mostly I was doing a lot of necropsies right away. And then obviously I did get to go out and help process some Fisher and some Martin. Pretty soon I was able to go with and start setting up trap lines with those big live traps that they use for catching the Fisher and the Martin. And then their field work was coming to an end. They had all of the information that they needed for that particular project, but I was still hanging around. And Barry, my mentor, asked me, "Want to ride along and come help trap wolves?" Yeah, I do. And that's pretty much the story of what put me on the fast track to where I am right now. So I started trapping wolves probably, I would say it was actually in 2015 with Barry. And then he started talking to me about a project that he wanted to do that was involving wolf puppies. He wanted to look at causational mortality for wolf pups. So the first den that I ever crawled into was this one, and that was in 2015. After that, brief break of exciting things, we'll get back to it in a second. After that, I actually, through Barry, got a really good technician's job, which was a wildlife habitat forest inventory technician's job, which it was actually a pilot project for habitat for sharp-tailed grouse out of Grand Rapids. We did these crazy intense surveys. They were a 5-part transect. So you'd come out to a central spot and then you'd have to go, like you'd do your transect in the middle and then you'd do a transect to each cardinal direction off of that central one. And in one of those 5 transects, you would have to do a complete releve, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with those, but you count everything from grass to trees and absolutely everything in between. So it was a lot of work, but it was a really rewarding job. It was very fun. It got me out into a lot of really cool remote areas, again, around that Grand Rapids area. And it was just a super cool job. After that, I was a naturalist again. And I worked at the Sudan Underground Mine. up in northern Minnesota. If you don't know where Sudan is, it's kind of over by Ely, excuse me. And then I started grad school at Bemidji State University. Like I said, I was there from 2017 until 2019 with my classes, and I'm still working on writing my thesis. Life got in the way a little bit, so I have not finished my thesis yet, but I'm getting there. Chapter 1, so I had 2 separate projects for my thesis. The first chapter is developing a habitat suitability model for wolves in Minnesota. And the second was determining wild wolf pup survival in Minnesota. So with my graduate school position, I was also something called a GA or a TA, which is a teaching assistant. So I taught intro to bio lab. This allowed me to not have to pay to go to school. So that's, if you guys are interested in going to get your master's, I would strongly suggest, if you're ever thinking about becoming a professor at some point in time down the road, I would strongly suggest doing a GA or a TA position rather than, what are the other ones called? I think it's just an RA, research assistant position. But if you don't ever want to teach or have an interest in being a professor or anything like that, then I would go with an RA, because a lot of times you can get paid better. So yeah. So with the wolf pup monitoring, you know, basically we went out with collared wolves and searched for wolf dens. A lot of times you end up walking around in a swamp and finding nothing. So it definitely was not a project for the faint of heart, and required a bug suit. But yeah, once we did find the pups, we would put expandable collars on them. So you can see here, that's what the expandable collars look like. These ones that are brand new, you can see they have something called an accordion stitch going down the side. So as the puppy grows, those stitches pop open and the collar essentially grows with the puppy. Now, obviously, you know, puppies are rowdy. They do chew on those collars a lot, and some of the pups just grow a lot faster than some of the other ones. So a lot of times you end up with ripped open collars or chewed off collars, things of that nature. So most of the time when I was going in to investigate a mortality signal off of one of the collars, that's what I was doing, was picking up a dropped collar, but not all the time. When I did come upon an actual mortality with a carcass, I would pack out the entire carcass, which sometimes, I mean, most of the time it was small, but sometimes, you know, in August, those pups are getting somewhat big. But yeah, and then we would do a complete full necropsy on those pups to try and determine the cause of death. Now, unfortunately, where these pups tend to be located is very difficult to access, and depending on when you get that mortality signal, a lot of times decompetition had gone too far to determine cause of death if it wasn't something obvious. So that's why it ended up not being a specific causational mortality study, because we did not have enough information to do that. The way I was able to monitor those pups is we used a remote telemetry tower, which this is what that looks like. We've got, you know, pieces of signpost bolted together all the way up at the top. We had 3 antennas. I think this particular set only has 2 on it, but I moved on to 3 after that. About halfway down that pole, you see a box. That was something called an RDP, which I had to learn inside and out because I had to program that thing. And down at the base, you can see there's a solar panel there. Kind of inside of that little willow shrub is a silver box. And inside of that silver box, you can see we've got our other ATS gear. There's a big battery in there. And then we've got our little data logging box. So in the data logger, you program all of the frequencies from the puppy collars, and then you schedule that through the RDP to send you packages of information several times a day. And it's all highly programmable. And when it works awesome, because it will actually send that information directly to like your cell phone. And you can wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and look at your cell phone and say, okay, I can either go back to bed or I need to go out and find either a dropped collar or a dead puppy, you know. Unfortunately, they don't, it ended up being very dependent on the terrain, on how well they worked. So hilly terrain ended up being far better than flat open terrain, mostly because the flat open terrain was wetland, and the moisture from the wetland actually affects the frequency that those collars give off. And so sometimes you could be like 200 yards away and not be able to pick up the frequency with that tower, which was just extremely frustrating and also very confusing. But yeah, so just kind of interesting little technology stuff that we had going on there that was brand new, that nobody else had used for that type of a project before. And then this was mostly what I did for all of my field work, was walking around and trying to find puppies. Because, you know, those telemetry towers weren't working super hot. So then I'd have to go out and check on the pups every day. We also later on started using aerial flights to check on the pups because they start to move a lot more, and it's just not feasible to check on them from the ground. As a bonus, I got to collar adults while I was working on my master's degree as well. My advisor through BSU actually got an ATS collar, so I got to put that one out for the university, but I was also trapping out of the Grand Rapids office and doing some trapping for them because they were short-staffed with people to trap wolves. And Barry, my mentor again, had taught me everything I know about wolf trapping. So yeah, and with that, you know, that brings me to where I am today, which is that I am the wolf biologist and tracking program manager for the Wisconsin DNR stationed out of Rhinelander. Yeah, so with my job, you know, I do lots of fun stuff. I get to go investigate mortality signals, this time with GPS collars, which they have a lot stronger signals, so they're a lot easier to find than those little puppy collars were. That's actually my kayak. This is a picture that I took not long after in the fall, obviously, but yeah, so I get to go out and investigate mortality signals. I normally would also be trapping and collaring wolves here. However, with COVID, I did not get to do that last year because we were on shutdown during the collaring season. And then the other half of my job is the winter carnivore tracking surveys, which are still going on right now. And that will end at the end of this month. So yeah, that's kind of my whole little story. I guess some words of advice. If I could go back and do one thing differently, when I was at Stevens Point, I would have been a lot more involved than I was with all of the different projects through the Wildlife Society. And I know that probably sounds strange considering that I was one of the Fisher Project co-leaders, but I didn't do that until my senior year there. I had, 2 whole other years where I could have been doing stuff with the chapter, and I just didn't. I had lots of personal stuff going on at that point in time, but I really wish I would have done that. I also wish that I would have made an effort to get in more on some of the research that the professors do out of Stevens Point. All of those kind of volunteering options it's really great experience for moving forward, and as long as you're doing it like more than just one time, you can definitely write that stuff on your resume. It's all really great stuff to have on there. So things that are really important to know how to do as a wildlife professional are radio telemetry. And I know that you guys have projects that use radio telemetry. So make an effort to go out and learn how to do that. Tracking is a huge skill that you guys should start looking into soon. If you're unfamiliar with tracks, that's something that you should look into. And yeah, another thing, this will be the last thing I say before I open it to let you guys talk to me. And I don't know how long I've talked for. I talk a lot. When I was actually in Point doing my undergrad, I'm not going to tell you who this guy was. He's retired. He's no longer working there. But my advisor, so my senior year, I had started looking at jobs and was kind of discovering that I was probably going to have to go back for my master's, even though I didn't want to. And I went in one day to talk to my advisor about that. And he told me that I shouldn't even try because I wasn't smart enough and I would not make it in this field. So, like I had kind of previously alluded to, I had some personal stuff going on in my life that my grades were not great until my senior year. My senior year, I got straight A's. Previously, that was not the case. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you guys know that this is what you want to do, and it makes you happy, it makes you feel fulfilled in life, you just keep working and you'll get there, okay? I'm living proof of that. I was told that I wouldn't make it, and here I am. I was told that I would never even get into grad school, and I'm almost done. So yeah, that's my advice. Work hard, volunteer. Might take you longer than you think it's going to, and it might be really hard, but you can do it. If it's what you really want, you can do it.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Yeah.
Cool. So as always, guys, if you have questions regarding anything she covered or her work currently with wolves, feel free to type them in, unmute. And Shannon, are you able to read the chat, or do you need me to read questions and chats to you?
Let's see. Click end on that.
Haven't seen any questions for you.
I have to
in
close the share.
particularly.
That's what it is.
Okay, there's one that just came in. Otherwise, if it's easier, I'm totally able to read those for you.
Yep, I got it. I just
Okay, cool.
have to stop sharing my screen for me to be able to see it.
No problem.
Spicy question. Okay, so about the wolf hunting season. Technically, as a representative of the DNR, I'm not supposed to have an opinion on that. But as far as what I think about how it